New matchup chart time. Things have changed a little bit from what I can tell, so some stuff is going to be different from last time. A lot of it's still the same though.
Yes! Show me your moves.
So I guess we'll start with Mario since he's the first character on here. We've got Mario at a -1. It's not so bad, but as a whole, he's definitely a character that is kind of hard to move around, and a lot of his moves are a lot safer than ours, but we are a lot faster than him. The main thing that makes this matchup difficult is the fact that his frame data is so superior, and when he gets hits, how easily he can kill us off of them. A lot of his combos are pretty brutal on a character of Falcon's height and weight, and we usually can't combo him anywhere near as well, although we are faster and can kind of keep him out sometimes. So it's definitely not the worst thing in the world, but Mario's got a bit of an edge, for sure. I think DK is a +1. It's one of those matchups you would almost expect to be worse than it is for DK, but his punish game on Falcon is really strong, even if ours is still a good bit stronger. For the most part, his moves can actually beat out ours kind of decently often, but we have a big speed advantage on the ground. And then a lot of the moves that he's going to throw out that can beat out a lot of our moves don't really get that much out of it. So DK kind of has to choose whether he wants to play a more spacing-oriented game or a higher risk combo-oriented game. And for the most part, we don't have to make that choice. We can kind of just throw stuff out that if it hits, we can do massive combos, and if it doesn't, not too big of a deal. Because we generally get more for our money, both on stage and off stage, even though we have a lot of similar strengths relative to each other, like we just combo him harder than he combos us, we're a bit faster, we edgeguard him a bit harder than he edgeguards us, but he can still pretty effectively do everything to us that we can to him. So it's only a +1 instead of like a +2. A good DK can definitely keep it close. Or beat you for sure. Can't really sleep on the character. I think Link's even personally. We have a massive speed advantage on him, but he's got those big disjoints, a lot of ways of controlling space with his projectiles. And some of his up close frame data, especially Nair, is really hard for us to deal with. If we want to deal with Nair, we usually have to like space a lot harder than he has to with Nair. But we can do it with like well-spaced back airs or just powering through with Raptor Boost. And while it can be hard to get in, we combo him quite a bit harder than he can combo us, and we have a massive speed advantage. So a lot of it is just about pattern recognition and just making sure that your disadvantage options and options off stage are really varied, because Link is really good at edgeguarding Falcon and also at just punishing us pretty hard for bad habits. So you kind of just have to make sure that you do a good job being unpredictable, and you'll do a lot better. We'll talk about Sora for a minute. I think this matchup's even, personally. I used to think that we won, but then a lot of Sora's combo game got a lot more optimized, and he can actually do some really good damage on us now. His mobility is pretty decent. A lot of his like Nair loops and other stuff like that work extremely well on us because of our height and weight. Like, we're in a lot of ways exactly what he wants to hit and what a lot of his combos work best on. So like really optimal Sora can feasibly do like 60 or more damage off of a good hit, and we can't really do that to him. But even though he generally out damages us, the fact that he's so much lighter means that it doesn't really matter as much as you would expect, since we kill him way earlier on paper. So even though our neutral wins mean less, it doesn't really matter because of the massive weight difference and the fact that our kill moves are just a lot beefier than his. Also, we're still faster, and we have ways of going through some of his relatively shorter range disjoints with Raptor Boost, which forces him to be a lot more honest, and he can't just like be spammy against us. Our speed also makes it to where we can get around a lot of his projectiles without too much trouble, as long as you are ready for them when they're going to come out. We can also edgeguard this character a lot better than you'd expect, because we can down air through his side Bs pretty well, and if you read that he's going to up B, you can just chase him with back airs or down air effectively as well. So even though he has all the recovery mix-ups in the world, generally speaking, if we read what he's going to do, he will die. So we can kind of force Sora to be a lot more honest off stage because of that. Hey, bunny. Alright, you can come over here for a second. Come on. After that, I guess we can talk about Samus and Dark Samus. So I think this matchup's even too. This one is really volatile because Samus has a lot of stuff, especially off of Charge Shot, that makes it to where she can pretty realistically just do unholy amounts of damage when she gets her wins. And this is something that she does to most characters, but she's really good at forcing a lot of RPS with a combination of like charge shot, faking charge shot to grab, and just reading jumps with fair. So a lot of fighting Samus is just about playing the RPS game and just focusing on conditioning and guessing right. So it's a bit of a high variance matchup, but it's one where the high variance works for both of us because she's at that good weight where we combo her extremely effectively. Her disadvantage is really rough, so we can kind of just juggle her forever sometimes. We also ledge trap her effectively and combo her effectively. But if we're not able to get like good combos into knee or whatever, she can live forever sometimes, which can be a pain. We also generally can't edgeguard her, so instead it's better to just focus on ledge trapping. She, on the other hand, can edgeguard us, although her ledge trapping is some of the best in the game, so she's usually just going to do that. For the most part, we just use our strong combos and speed to just threaten a lot of options and try and force her to make uncomfortable decisions when she's playing the RPS game with charge shot. And that's how we try and get a lot of our gains, is just trying to figure out how they're going to make their decisions. For the most part, this is a very read-heavy matchup. Whichever player is better at predicting what the other is going to do is going to win like 80% of the time. Where's King K. Rool? Not sure you're going to like this one, pal. So King K. Rool is our first +2 matchup. Oh boy, this character gets obliterated by Falcon. We have a massive speed advantage. We can very effectively just ignore so much of his zoning game and just get massive combos. When he gets hits, we take like 20 or 30. When we hit him, he can just die on the spot, regardless of his percent. He can edgeguard us decently, but nothing too crazy. Meanwhile, if we get him off stage, with good execution, he should die. Every time. If you've mastered your reverse up Bs, and otherwise just make sure he can't recover high with like back air walls, off stage is hell on earth for this character for us. So in summary, we're faster and we can kind of just ignore a lot of his zoning tools. We edgeguard him horribly effectively. And as long as you're smart about your disadvantage options, he's usually not going to be able to keep you in disadvantage too long. However, he can still like get hard reads off stage or just hard reads in general, but he kind of has to get lots of hard reads to keep up. And that's never a good sign in a matchup when multiple hard reads are mandatory just to not fall behind. This matchup sucks for K. Rool. It is what it is. The Belmonts are like, I'm still not entirely sure, but I lean towards this. Like there's no way we lose this matchup. If anything, we might slightly win, but I don't really play it enough to be confident either way. Getting through a lot of his tools can be difficult, but his neutral wins also tend to yield so little compared to ours that he has to win neutral like 3 to 4 times as much as we do to get the same amount of reward, which is not a great sign when his neutral is not that much better than ours. It definitely is better, but not that much better. Although his ledge trapping is definitely really painful for us to deal with, we can ledge trap him pretty effectively too, but not as well as he ledge traps us. And edgeguarding him is surprisingly difficult unless you knock him extremely far off stage, although he can't really edgeguard us either. This matchup is all about just pattern recognition with a lot of how they're going to be using their projectiles and just figuring out when you can pick your openings and picking them very carefully. And then once you pick them, just maintain your advantage state but play conservatively with it. Don't really focus on chasing him off stage, focus on just keeping him in the corner or keeping him at the ledge. Just rack up that damage naturally and go from there. That's how you're going to win. What about Gamewatch? Pretty sure you already know the answer to this one, champ. Gamewatch is, in my opinion, probably our only -2 matchup. This matchup sucks. We cannot effectively combo him. We can't edgeguard him with any level of reliability. We can't really chase him in disadvantage with any level of reliability. He crouches under so much of our stuff and also has a massive range advantage. We basically have to get tons of hard reads to keep up. It's tough. Meanwhile, he combos us extremely effectively through tons of different means. He keeps us in advantage forever. His ledge trapping is brutal. He can realistically kill us off stage at just about any percent imaginable. And he has good solutions to pretty much everything we can do. The Game & Watch player has to make tons of mistakes for you to keep up, or you have to be just absolutely vastly better than them. Or a combination of both. This matchup sucks. I don't think it's realistically winnable at top level, but I think you can beat higher level. I think you can beat like a high level Game & Watch player if you're absolutely amazing, but I think you basically have to get lucky to win this matchup at top level. I'd probably put Wolf around here. It kind of feels like we might lose this matchup as the meta develops more, but we also just have a pretty big speed advantage. We still combo him better than he combos us, and we can ledge trap him pretty effectively, but his ledge trapping on us is really, really hard to deal with, and he can just kind of keep us at ledge forever realistically. If he gets hard reads with down smash, we just die off stage. Neutral is pretty challenging. I kind of feel like this is more of a -1, but the results don't necessarily back that up yet, although I feel like they might down the road. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a -1 in like 6 months or a year, but I've also just had pretty good results in this matchup for the most part, but things definitely feel like they might be shifting. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a -1, but because I'm not really sure yet, I'll put him here. So how about Kirby? So Kirby is probably... Kirby to me feels like a +1. Although I feel like you have to play this matchup really, really differently than most matchups in the game. You have to camp this character extremely hard. You get your percent lead, and then you do your best Sonic the Hedgehog impression and just never interact again. Both characters struggle to approach each other effectively, but it's definitely harder for Kirby, and we do a lot more damage than he does. We also kill him a lot earlier. We can edgeguard him pretty effectively. And getting edgeguard by Kirby is it's a lot easier to avoid getting edgeguard by this character than you would expect at a glance. As a whole, it feels like this matchup is probably in our favor. I just think that you have to play it super lame, and most Falcons aren't really willing to do that, which is why you end up with a lot of Falcons who are having trouble when I don't think they should. Another matchup that I think has changed since last time is Yoshi. I think we lose this matchup now. I used to think it was even-ish, but then I came to realize that one of the reasons I thought this was because I feel like the Yoshi players just weren't that good yet. And now that they've gotten a lot better, this matchup feels a lot more tough. I know Sean agrees with that too. We were talking about the Yoshi matchup, and he's one of the people that convinced me that we lose it. It's pretty hard to combo this character effectively despite his weight, so he can sometimes just live forever while also not really get comboed effectively. And on top of that, he combos us extremely well and can edgeguard us very well, but we can't really do the same to him. I think neutral's pretty even. It's just advantage state favors him, and the offstage game favors him. Neutral feels even though. I think if our offstage and punish games were about the same, I would consider it an even matchup because neutral feels super balanced. Well, I think I'm really good at the matchup chase. I think one of the reasons why I've thought Yoshi was an even matchup for the longest time was I thought I was unusually good at the matchup, and also just the Yoshis just weren't that good yet. But now that they are, it's getting hard, for sure. Well, going from left to right, we've got Fox. I think this is another -1. I think that we can kill this character really early if we get good hits. The problem is getting those hits is hard because neutral is bad. Like, this character obliterates us in neutral. We can't really whiff punish anything he does, but he can whiff punish most things we do. This character's like speed advantage on us is absolutely insane. But at the very least, our hits do mean a lot on him because of how light he is. And we can usually just get one really hard read and he dies. If we weren't able to make our hard reads count so much, I think this matchup would be worse. But because our hard reads do matter a lot, it's only like a -1. On top of that, comboing him is actually pretty difficult. Like, he gets out of most of our stuff. We can usually only do like 20 damage per touch. Unless we get like an aerial nair or something like that. So to me, it definitely feels like we lose this matchup. I think -1 seems reasonable. After that, we've got Pikachu, another one. So I don't think this matchup's that bad. I know plenty of people think it's worse. I think it's definitely very doable for us. It's just one that you really have to know. Like, I think that this is one of those matchups that's a very high skill threshold for Falcon. It's kind of like those roller coaster rides at like Six Flags or other amusement parks that say you must be this tall to ride. It's kind of like that, except you must be this skillful to not get obliterated. You must know the matchup this well to stand a chance. But once you are past that threshold, it's not too bad. For the most part, we can contest him pretty effectively in neutral. We can get lots of early kills if we have good reads. We have options to deal with a lot of what he does. It's just the offstage advantage is massively in his favor, which is, I think, the main reason why Pikachu wins. If it weren't for us not really being able to edgeguard Pikachu and him edgeguarding us really well, I think it would be even. But because of the massive offstage advantage, I think Pikachu wins. I don't believe in 0.5 subs because that doesn't affect a matchup. I think that's just what people do when, because that's not an amount that affects a matchup on paper. Because think about it this way, the reason we use numbers like +1, +2, and other things like that is to distinguish how likely or how specifically influenced games are going to be by a matchup at a higher level of play. Like, if a matchup is +1, that means that if two players of equal skill and equal knowledge in a matchup play 10 games of that matchup, the person on the +1 side should win 6 of those games, and the person on the -1 side should win 4. Likewise, a +2 is 7, 3, and so on. Dead or Rams, it just means I'm not sure. It doesn't mean that I consider this -1 or this, or -0.5 or +0.5. It just means I'm not sure, because I haven't played it enough. That's why there's the or. +1 or 50-50, 50-50 or -1. To make it more clean up. The or is in there for a reason. Alright, next up is Luigi. So this matchup's really volatile. This one is, as a whole, both characters have really good punish games on each other, but Luigi's is significantly more guaranteed. Like, both characters can edgeguard each other really well, both characters have lots of good tools on each other in neutral, and both characters have strong advantage states on each other. The difference is our combos do like 20 or 30 damage, and his do like 80 or kill us. Like, as a whole, a lot of Luigi's stuff is just so much easier and more reliable, which gives him, because he can just more reliably do so much damage. Like, yeah, we can get him a disadvantage and he has bad options and we can read those, but when we're getting like 0 deaths on Luigi, it usually involves reads, and then his doesn't. Luigi can just be like, oh, I just grabbed you, die. And we just have to sit there and be like, yeah. So because the punish game is so much in his favor, even though we can like still 0 death him realistically with just 1 or 2 reads off a starting combo, we have to make reads and he generally doesn't. And so because of that, it's definitely harder for Falcon. Even though we can still edgeguard him well, and he can edgeguard us well, so on and so forth. Ness. This is another matchup that I think has changed since last time. So, as a whole, hitting this character is pretty difficult. He's got a bit of a range advantage, he has a frame data advantage, and one of the things that changed my mind on this matchup, I used to think it was even-ish, but I think the main thing that changed for me was a lot of the optimized side magnets and combos. Now, when I'm getting hit by Nesses, I'm taking so much more damage, and I usually can't do anything about it. And then, not only am I taking a lot more damage, but I'm also getting sent off stage significantly more often, and because of that, Ness's edgeguarding on us is extremely difficult to deal with PK Thunder, down smash, PK Fire, and going off with like fairs. It's definitely pretty hard to get back. However, we still have like some solid combos on him, like he's a decent combo weight if we do get a hit on him. We can edgeguard him with, we can usually kill him off stage with just 1 good read, but he does have a lot of mix-ups, so getting that read can be difficult if the Ness you're fighting is smart. As a whole, like, we do have pretty good strengths against him. It's just his are stronger than ours. So as a whole, it ends up here. Even though we have that massive speed advantage, it doesn't really matter that much in neutral because of his small size, significantly better frame data, and better range. Right, after that, I think we've got a Jigglypuff. I think this one's another even one, personally. This matchup is... It's one of his more volatile evens, I think, where Puff can zero death Falcon by just getting like one good hit into a good combo and then throwing him off stage and edge guarding him. And there are a lot of situations where you'll end up off stage, and if she plays properly, you just get all of your options covered and died. But we also just have really strong combos on her, surprisingly. She's like, even though she's light, she's a certain floatiness in size to where a lot of our combos work really well on her. We can do like 30 or 40 a hit and then one read and she explodes, and our advantage state on her is extremely oppressive. I think our advantage state on her is quite a bit better than her advantage state on us. It's just that her edge guarding on us is pretty brutal. So even though we can't really edge guard her effectively too much, our really oppressive advantage state combined with our speed and being able to kill her super early off of reads because of her lightness makes it to where even though she has better combos on us and edge guards us way better than we edge guard her, I think that being able to kill her earlier outside of those edge guard situations combined with our really, really good advantage state makes it evenish overall. Let's see, what are we gonna do next? Since someone brought it up, I think Anthron did, talk about ZSS for a minute. I think this one is -1. It's not too bad. As a whole, getting in on this character is pretty difficult, but at least once we do, we can usually get her to a percent where we can kill her without too many neutral wins. So we don't usually need to get in too many times before we can threaten kill options. But she definitely is able to keep us out really well. Getting hits on her is pretty hard, and comboing her for long is very hard too because of flip kick and her slim frame. So even though it can be hard to get those hits, at least they're pretty meaningful and we don't need that much damage to effectively accomplish a lot. But she can edge guard us really effectively, and it's pretty hard to edge guard her. And it's pretty hard to get into. Although a lot of our punishes are more meaningful than her punishes on us, which is one of the reasons this matchup's not too bad. Alright. Let's see. After that, let's do Cloud? Sure. I think this one can be a bit difficult, but the main thing that makes this matchup a lot more doable is even though neutral is pretty tough for us, and we can't really combo Cloud as effectively as you'd expect because something about his size and weight, when we get our down throws, we can't usually get nairs out of it at all. He will just up air us every single time. We can usually only do like 20 damage per hit unless we get like a nair 1 or a raptor boost. And those can be a bit difficult to get since he can kind of just back air and ignore a lot of that. Back air by itself is the reason we lose this matchup. I think if it weren't for that, it'd be even. Or maybe we'd even win. But that move by itself just makes it so hard for us to get in. It bodies us at ledge. It beats a significant amount of our options. And it forces us to have to just read when he's going to jump. So we can hit him with... So we can like catch him with an anti-air. Like preemptively throwing out an air to catch him before he even has a chance to back air you, as an example. A lot of it is just about trying to read his jumps. And then when you get chances, trying to edge guard him, because you don't really want to try and ledge trap him, even though our ledge trapping on him is solid, because it's better to just try and kill him off stage. If you focus more on ledge trapping, you're giving him more chances to play neutral on average, and you want to play as little neutral as possible with him because he just beats us there. Like, Cloud has a pretty big advantage in neutral. I think everything else about the matchup is completely fine. It's literally just neutral sucks. Okay. Someone mentioned Falco? Okay. This is one of my favorite matchups in the game. This is 50-50 for sure. Both these characters have really good punish games and advantage states on each other, but for the most part, neither is going to get like long 0 deaths or anything like that. Both characters kind of just get like 30 damage punishes and then have to get reads. Because it's very read-based for both characters have tons of counterplay for everything the other can do. Both characters can edgeguard each other effectively but still have tons of mix-ups. And both characters can effectively reversal each other provided you get reads. So it's just a very fun, very balanced matchup where nothing is particularly free for either character. It's one of my favorite matchups in the game for sure. While he does more damage to us when he gets hits usually, we're also just more effectively able to kill him early. So a lot of the time we win neutral around the same amount of times per stock, even if his do more damage. So the fact that he does more damage generally doesn't really matter too much usually. It's a really fun matchup. Both characters have tons of things to deal with each other. It's very balanced and has a lot of depth to it. A favorite for sure. Peach? This one, not entirely sure about this one. We might lose it, but we also might go even. I need to play it more, honestly. A lot of it is just about trying to figure out how they're going to float around things, because she can kind of ignore so many of our combo starters, but then by doing so puts herself in positions where we can kind of just hit sniper with back airs, or if she's doing lower floats, like Raptor Boost as an example. It can be pretty hard for us to get our combos on her, but we have a massive speed advantage and we can kind of wall her out sometimes, especially with back airs. The main problem is when she gets her hits, she generally does so much more damage than when we get our hits. But it does feel like if we play really patiently, we can often control neutral. We also can't really edgeguard this character. She can kind of edgeguard us, but usually not too well, honestly. I'm not entirely sure about this one. I wouldn't be surprised if I come to the conclusion that we lose it, or that it's even. Kind of need to play it more and just let more time pass, I guess. Someone mentioned Chic. I think this one's a -1. Neutral is very, very hard in this matchup. She can also edgeguard us pretty decently, although most Chics don't do that for some reason. She also combos us extremely hard. The main thing is that she's super light, and I do mean very light. And a lot of our kill moves, especially up smash, just kill her so stupidly early that the amount of mistakes she can make is very low. But it does feel like if she just doesn't make very many mistakes, that it can be very hard to keep up sometimes. As a whole, this matchup for us is all about how effectively you can read a lot of her safer options, because you have to go for reads. At least we get a ton out of those reads, and we also kill her very early, though. So it's not too bad. Okay. Someone mentioned Rosa. This one has changed since last time, too. I used to think this one was even, but DeBuzz talked to me a lot at Smash Factor and convinced me that it's losing. I think one of the main things that changed was a lot of stuff with lunar landings and other things changed a lot. This character got way better very quickly, and that's one of the reasons why DeBuzz has been using Rosa a lot more recently, is a lot of new stuff has been found with lunar landings and a lot of her wave dash tech and other things that make it to where she can cover her tracks a lot more effectively, and winning neutral against her got a lot harder. And then she also is able to do stuff like dash tech cancels into up smash as a kill confirm now. So she kind of got a lot more confirms and a lot more ways to escape our combos, to where winning neutral got pretty hard, and comboing her is usually pretty hard too. At least if we can get combos, we can get her pretty close to death very quickly. And like Nair 1 to knee and up air to knee work extremely well on her. We also can edgeguard her somewhat, if you cover higher recoveries with back airs, you can do down air at ledge to catch her up Bs, and although you shouldn't do this too often, you can scare earlier up Bs by chasing her with footstools as well. Footstools are actually really good against this character, and they'll often force up Bs to where you can just cover it easier with down air or even like reverse up B. Reverse up B definitely catches her pretty well. As a whole, I used to think this matchup was even, but Rosa just got a lot of new stuff somewhat recently, and it definitely makes it a lot harder. So it went from being like even because of other stuff to now she's harder to combo but also harder to win neutral against. So makes sense that she's here now. Get Olimar out of the way? Sure. This one is, I'm pretty sure, even. It can be kind of an annoying one, and if you don't know what you're doing, it's very easy to get bodied as either character. But for the most part, both characters have a lot of really good stuff they can do to each other. We have a massive speed advantage. We can kill Pikmin pretty effectively. We can actually edgeguard Olimar pretty decently, and our ledge trapping on him is very strong too. And we have a lot of ways of just getting around Pikmin. The main thing is that comboing him is pretty difficult, but at least we don't need to win the neutral too many times before we can threaten kills with knees, like Nair 1 into knee or just a bunch of other stuff. Also, up smash is amazing in this matchup. I mean, it's amazing in a lot of matchups, but it does make a pretty big difference, I think. Obviously, though, he still has a pretty big range advantage. He can be annoying to get in on it, and he can avoid a lot of our moves, but you just have to change a lot of your move choices against him because of how small he is. I think Terry's probably a -1. I don't think it's like too bad, but it's definitely easier for him to get the hits he wants than vice versa, mainly because he has a pretty big advantage up close. A lot of his moves are faster, and he has a lot better jab pressure. It's like we can play the mid-range game pretty effectively, and we can edgeguard him pretty well. And we also combo him pretty well, so I think for the most part, both characters have really similar strengths on each other. It's just Terry's combos are more reliable, his up-close options are more reliable, and his ledge trapping on us is quite a bit better, I think. Like, both characters can pretty brutally punish each other, and both characters have tons of tools. It's just, it's generally easier for Terry to get his tools to work, and they're more reliable. It can be pretty... Neutral is definitely in his favor, too. Although I don't think it's by much. Because I don't think any of his advantages are by that much against us. He just has, like, a few advantages in a few different places. And he's just generally safer. Alright, Lucina. I think this one's even. This one is pretty fun if you know what you're doing. It's one where you have to stay very grounded and just play a very conservative advantage state and focus on ledge trapping instead of edge guarding. For the most part, you are not realistically going to be edge guarding this character much. You kind of just want to focus on staying very grounded and using a lot of dash attack and jab as your main neutral tools. F-tilt's pretty solid too, but for the most part, you just play super patiently and focus on movement reads and just a lot of fake outs more than anything. Raptorus can be solid as well, but you have to just be really careful. We can also just get raw kills a lot easier on her than she can on us, but I think the reason we don't beat her is because the offstage advantage is very much in her favor. We can't really edgeguard her, but she edgeguards us very effectively. I think the main thing that makes it even, though, is the fact that I think our ledge trapping on her is really strong. We have the speed advantage, and we're just able to get raw kills significantly better than she can. We can also ledge whiff punish her pretty decently. And if you play super safe, it can be harder for her to whiff punish us, I think. Both characters kind of destroy each other in a lot of ways. Both characters have lots of tools that they can do. I mostly just think that we're able to ledge trap him super effectively. We have a massive speed advantage, which makes it to where he has to guess a lot. Although a lot of his guesses are still pretty safe because he has just so much more range than we do. It mostly just feels like whoever is better able to condition the other, and who makes less mistakes usually wins. We can't really edgeguard Byleth, but he also has kind of a hard time edgeguarding us too. Unless he gets us really far off stage, in which case he can force like uncomfortable 50-50s. But we can also edgeguard him if we force him really far off stage. But both characters struggle to edgeguard each other outside of that. But yeah, we have a massive speed advantage. Our combo game is a bit more explosive than his, but he has like more reliable damage, and he has like more reliable kill confirms. It can be pretty hard for us to get a lot of our like Nair 1 to knee or anything like that on him. For the most part, we kind of end up killing Violet with stray hits a lot because of how difficult landing those moves are, but at least we have good enough damage and our explosive combos to where even though his stuff is more reliable, when we do get our stuff, it can usually offset that. So it feels evenish to me. What about Sephiroth? This one, I want to say it's even? It feels even. It could be -1, but I'm not entirely. I think I'm going to put him here. Like, when I look at the matchup on paper, I feel like it should be -1, but at the same time, the results don't necessarily support that yet. Approaching him is extremely difficult. He has a pretty good advantage state on us. Like, I could see it being even or -1 because we still have a speed advantage. We still are able to combo him decently, although our throw combos on him are pretty underwhelming. When he has wing, though, it gets really hard. Honestly, I kind of lean towards this just because of wing. Although we can kill him before he gets it sometimes, but it's pretty hard when he's super evasive. I think if it wasn't for wing, it'd be even. But a lot of the optimizations that Sephiroth is getting, combined with wing, probably lead to this being slight loss. It's pretty slight, though. It's not that bad. It feels like Sephiroth just needed more time to optimize, and now that he is, it got harder. Thoughts on the blue bomber? Sure. I like this matchup. I think it's a solid 50-50. Getting in is pretty difficult, but we also just do so much more damage that we compensate for it. We have a pretty big speed advantage. He has a range and projectile advantage. Both characters have pretty good advantage states on each other. Both characters can edgeguard each other pretty effectively. For the most part, it's a pretty balanced matchup where usually whoever is better able to condition the other is going to win, regardless of stages or anything else. It feels even to me, personally. It used to be winning? I can't remember. I think it's even, personally, Proctor. I know Scat and Peepnut agree with me as well. Roy and Crom? Sure. So I think these are, I think they're different. I think Crom is even, and then Roy is -1. As a whole, Crom definitely feels like it's evenish. We still get kind of bodied in neutral the way Roy does. He still ledge traps us really well, and he can edgeguard us, but I feel like he doesn't edgeguard us as well as Roy does, and he's just also significantly harder to, or Crom is significantly easier to kill off stage. He also is able, he doesn't really kill us as early as Roy does either, because a lot of his sour spots don't really matter as much against Falcon because of how reliably he can just combo into everything he wants ever. It mostly just, the main thing that makes Roy difficult is that Falcon just has to get lots of reads, but you do get more off of your reads than Roy generally gets off of his. It can be kind of a frustrating matchup because Roy has a pretty big advantage in neutral. He can kind of just press buttons and we have to respect it. And his options are safe enough to where we can't really punish him out of shield. And we can't really contest his moves either. Like, we can't really contest them. We can't really stop him from doing what he wants. And we can't punish it out of shield either. We can't really run away from his moves either because our turnaround will just get snagged by a lot of his moves. So Roy can kind of just do whatever he wants in neutral, and we kind of just have to predict a few steps ahead, or we have to just go for ballsy reads before we are in those situations in the first place. So it's a matchup where sometimes you just can't do anything and you just die, But sometimes you also just go for high variance reads and they work, and then he explodes. So it definitely is doable, but you kind of just have to accept that you're not going to be in control most of the time. And you kind of just have to make sure that those little opportunities you get, you push as far as possible. It's like, it can feel even-ish if you're getting the reads right, but then if you're not, this matchup feels quite a bit worse. But because it has aspects that feel even-ish, but also neutral can be really bad sometimes, it kind of balances out to -1 instead of like... Because if we weren't able to punish him as effectively as we do, it would be -2. But you have to get those reads. And you have to make those high-risk decisions, and he just doesn't. For the most part. Banjo? Sure. This matchup, to me, feels... somewhere in this range. I'm not sure if we beat him or not. We might. But it definitely feels like... it's kind of like Mega Man, but I think he's just worse. Where he has a lot of ways of keeping us out, but he just does pretty minuscule damage. He also is not as good at edgeguarding us as Mega Man is. Like, I could see it being even, or I could see it being our favor. Like, winning neutral is hard, but we get so much out of it. We can kind of edgeguard him, especially if you read, like, Wonder Wing with up B. We've got the speed to get around stuff, and we can kill him pretty early off of reads, and he just can't really do that to us. He kind of just has to win neutral a gazillion times, which he has the tools to do. But I don't know. I don't really play too much of this matchup, so I'm not sure if we win it or not. So putting him here seems fine. I think Rob is even, personally. This matchup is violent. Both of these characters can very realistically zero-death each other. Both these characters can very realistically kill each other off stage in tons of situations. This character's nuts. But a lot of our strengths match up really well against him, so we can combo him really effectively. We're pretty fast, so he can have a hard time catching us sometimes. We can edgeguard him pretty well and ledge trap him pretty well. The main thing is, both characters have really similar strengths on each other, just in different ways. We just get our openings in different ways because of our neutral being really different. Rob kind of wins a lot of up-close situations, and he also wins from a long distance. So Falcon kind of just wants to play at a mid-range and then just make him feel like he has to do something or go for hard reads and catch movement. Those are the main ways you play neutral in this matchup. You stay at mid-range and you try and bait him into doing something you can punish and go for a big combo, or you just go for a raw read on a movement option or weaving around one of his buttons and just going for big punishes off of that. But both characters just have such meaty punishes on each other and tons of ways of getting around most of what the others can do. So it feels even to me. Doc? Sure. Where is it? I think this one's a +1. I don't think it's like that bad for Dr. Mario, but neutral can be pretty difficult for him sometimes since we have such a massive speed advantage. And a lot of our moves have more range too. Albeit, he does have better frame data, but it doesn't feel like it's quite enough. Both characters have like similar punish games on each other, I think. As a whole, I feel like we have a bit of a neutral advantage despite worse frame data because of our massive speed advantage and, in some cases, slight range advantage. And then the other main thing we have going for us is that we body him off stage. Keep in mind, he can ledge trap us better than we can usually ledge trap him. But I think the offstage advantage combined with a slight neutral advantage is enough to make it winning for us. Thank you, Guana Serrator, for gifting a sub, by the way. Thank you so much. I'm not going to be explaining any characters that are already on here in Viable, because otherwise we'd be here way too long. You'll just have to go back or wait for the video. There's too many goddamn characters in this game to retread old ground. I've already been doing this for over an hour and there's still so much left. Alright. Someone said Ganondorf. You know, I'm gonna add one more tier actually. just for this matchup because I'm really not sure about it. We have a special tier just for Ganondorf. I'm really not sure about this one. Like, as a whole, like, his punish game on us is really good. He edge guards us really well. I mostly just feel like we combo him a lot better than he combos us. And we edge guard him around the same hard as he edge guards us. So we definitely win the matchup. I'm just not entirely sure how hard. Because compared to Krool, I think Ganon is just a lot scarier to get hit by for Falcon. And he also edge guards us better. But we also have a massive neutral advantage and edge guard him, I think, harder than he edge guards us. So, like, we definitely win solidly at worst. It's +1 or +2, but I'm just not sure which. What does Rickles think? He'd probably generally agree with this. If you camp Ganon, I could see it being +2. Meta Knight to me feels even, personally. I used to think that we won it, but Meta Knight's punish game got a lot more optimized, and now getting hit by him is a lot scarier. I think we have an advantage in neutral, and we also kill him earlier, but he has a pretty big advantage off stage, and I think he's able to combo. His combos are more likely to kill us than vice versa. We kind of just win neutral and rack up damage, like, pretty normally against him, and then every now and then he'll just get some explosive opening and zero death us, or put us in a position where he just edge guards us. It feels evenish to me. Like, his ladders seem really good against us. He can do, like, those horizontal ladders where he just catches you with, like, up airs and down airs into, like, forward air or back air. And he can kill us pretty well off of those, and he edge guards us really well too. But I think our neutral advantage and us killing him earlier outside of those kills that he gets balance it out, so it feels evenish to me. Someone asked about Snake. I think it's a -1 personally. This matchup, we only lose it because of Nikita. If it wasn't for Nikita, this matchup would be even. Neutral's pretty balanced, both characters have really good advantage states on each other, but nothing's too free. It's very mix-up heavy for both characters. We have the speed, but he has a lot of crouching stuff, bigger moves, and a lot of interesting projectiles. It's literally just Nikita that makes it to where he's able to kill us off stage, whereas we usually can't edge guard him unless he makes a mistake. We kind of just have to reset him a lot, whereas he doesn't really have to do that to us because of Nikita. He raw kills us when we get off stage with a read, and we usually, when we get a read, we just throw him back out and then play the same guessing game again when he does his high recoveries. It's literally just Nikita. That moves crazy against us. You can up air the Nikita, but he can also just cancel it to where it'll then blow up on hit. Sometimes he can also just force trades with it too, if he reads how you're gonna do it. So, like, he can just go through your aerials with it if he reads the aerial. Nikita is definitely pretty problematic for us. Let's see. For next, how about we do... Someone mentioned Young Link. I'd probably put this about here. As a whole, beating this character in neutral is pretty hard because he has better frame data, he's small, his initial dash is better than ours, and he, like, has better drift. And he also combos us harder than we combo him. The main thing I think we have going for us is that our kills happen a lot earlier than his, and we do have faster ground speed. So on top of that, we generally have better range than him. So you can outspace a lot of his moves if you're good at predicting a lot of it. It mostly is just a matter of how effectively you can read a lot of his projectiles and parry them, and then just force uncomfortable situations from there. He also has kind of a hard time edge guarding us, but we can definitely chase him off stage and kill him. And we do ledge trap him really effectively too, just not as well as he ledge traps us. I think we really only lose this matchup because of neutral, because neutral sucks. Pretty hard to hit this character. What about Ices? Let me find them first. I'm not sure about this one, honestly. I know a lot of the Ice Climber I think a lot of the Ice Climber players think that it's even or losing, or even or winning for them, and I kind of agree with that. But I don't really play it that much, honestly. It's one of those matchups that I don't feel like I know, and I kind of suck at it. But I can also just look at the strengths on paper and realize that I just need to get better at it. Because right now it feels like a losing matchup when I play it, but I also just don't play it enough to where I feel like I'm good at it. So maybe that's it. Because I'm uncertain, I'm going to put him there. But generally speaking, Ice Climbers as a character do really well against characters that are forced to scrap with them. So I know plenty of the top Ice Climber players think that they beat Falcon, but I just don't play it enough to feel like I have a good opinion yet. So I'm just going to put them here for now. Thank you, Marcos Novaboy, for gifting a sub to Taco Guy. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Raptor Boost is definitely, it's good in the matchup, but they do have really good punishes against it, so I don't like to do it too much, honestly. Wario? Sure. I was actually playing a lot of friendlies with Gluttony at Smash Factor, and we talked about it for a bit. He and I both agree that it's -1 at this point. It feels like Wario just has, like, slight advantages across the board, but nothing too crazy. Like, his combos generally do more damage than ours, but we do have solid combos on him. It feels like he has only a slight advantage in neutral, but we can offset a lot of stuff by just being fast and often having better range. But a lot of his stuff is just way safer than what we have, and a lot more ambiguous. So pinning him down is just very difficult, but he's able to do it to us much more effectively, funnily enough, because of our pretty bad grounded frame. Like, our really bad initial dash and turnaround make it a lot easier than you would expect for him to corner us, whereas we can't really corner him effectively. He can kind of... It's a lot harder to force engagements on our terms than it is for him. And for the most part, we don't really edgeguard him, but we can keep him in disadvantage very effectively. He can edgeguard us too, but it's kind of hard for us to get... We have a lot of ways of getting around a lot of his options if we just read what he's going to do. But if he reads what we're going to do, we often die for it. He also has this thing where if he throws out down air and it trades with one of our moves, we just get spiked and we usually die regardless of our percent. So he can definitely like kill us at like 0 with it. Thank you, Marcos, for gifting another sub. What a real one. Someone mentioned Ryu. Oh boy, that's a fun one. I think this matchup's super even, personally. It's kind of like the Falco matchup in the sense that it feels really balanced. Both characters can get really big punishes on each other, but they usually requires reads. Both characters have tons of counterplay for basically everything the other can do. Both characters can get explosive stuff, but it's not really guaranteed and requires reads. Both characters can kind of edgeguard each other, but for the most part we edgeguard Ryu more than he edgeguards us, but he ledge traps us better than we ledge trap him. Other than that, it's just a really balanced matchup. Oh, thank you, Remsho. I appreciate it. Let's see. Now that we're thinking about it, I've got Lucina, I think. Or, now that I did Lucina, let's see. For Marth, how about here? Not really sure about this one, honestly. Thank you, Zurzel, for dropping the Twitch Prime, by the way. It was fun. It was good to practice with you earlier. I'll place Min Min next. Alright? But the reason I have Marth here instead of even with Lucina is I think Marth is just a little bit worse. But he can kill us more explosively than Lucina can sometimes, so maybe it's even. I don't know. I kind of lean towards it being even. Yeah, I'll just put him in even, the more I think about it. Just because he's just more explosive than Lucina is. Alright, now that I'm thinking about it, we'll place Min Min next. I think this one's even. As a whole, Falcon can pretty effectively put himself in a range that's really annoying for Min Min. She doesn't really like it when characters can stay consistently at a diagonal angle from her. We have a massive speed advantage, and our punish game on her is very brutal, both with our combos being really good on her, and then on top of that, I think that our advantage state on her in edge guarding is also extremely strong, but she has an unholy range advantage on us. She's like got 4 or 5 times our range, and that's not an exaggeration. A lot of her incidental hits can just kill us sometimes. Her ledge trapping and edge guarding are also pretty brutal. For the most part, both these characters just absolutely annihilate each other on paper. And we have the mobility to where we can kind of dodge a lot of her stuff. But it feels like a very high variance matchup because sometimes you can just not necessarily make mistakes, but they just throw incidental stuff out and you die. But you can kind of do the same to her. Both characters bother each other in event. Like this matchup feels like you can realistically 3-stock someone at top level in because of how violent it is, and it goes both ways. And I know DeBuzz agrees with me that it's even. We'll both have games where we're like, I know we've had like practice games where I'll 3-stock him and the next game he 3-stocks me, and that's the matchup. Things snowball so fast. It's just destruction. But both characters have ways of avoiding each other. Min with a lot of her range, she can avoid anything because she's just got insane range. And then we've got the mobility to put ourselves in annoying positions for her and make her take more risks in neutral. So Joker, we'll put him here. This matchup is mostly balanced, I would say. It mostly just feels like Joker has very slight advantages across the board. Like, we have a lot of good tools in neutral against Joker, but I feel like his are just a little bit better against us. We can definitely edgeguard Joker effectively with and without Arsene, but I think he has an easier time doing it to us. Both of us have pretty good advantage states on each other. I think without Arsene, the matchup would be even, but with it becomes even. Or with it goes to -1. Because I really don't think it's bad at all. Arsene is just rough. At the very least, though, we have really good tools for getting rid of it early because of our high damage output, and our Rapid Jab is really good at deleting Arsene too. And also when he has Arsene, we can just kill him off stage very effectively. Alright, Incineroar and Korin. So where... I want to say that this matchup is right here. Like, I don't think it's too bad for Incineroar, but it's really violent for both characters. But I feel like the main thing that has changed is that the Incineroars, more specifically Skyjade, got a lot better. I used to think this matchup was maybe worse, but he can edgeguard us pretty decently. His combos on us are pretty decent. And for the most part, when we have up-close scraps, he actually wins. The main thing is we have an absolutely massive speed advantage, and our combos are a lot bigger than his. But other than that, like, both characters can edgeguard each other pretty effectively. Incineroar has a range advantage and can also just win a lot of scraps up close. We kind of just want to play at mid-range constantly and just make him guess a lot, and then when we get our guesses, we get just massive combos. And he just can't combo us like that at all. So the combo advantage combined with a massive speed advantage compensate for his strengths that he has on us. Alright, Korin. Let's see, where's that? Oh, there they are. Korin to me feels like a +1. They have a pretty hard time controlling us in neutral. For the most part, we can kind of just do whatever we want and they can't really stop us. Sure, they have a pretty good range advantage, but they can't really force us to do anything. Meanwhile, we can kind of force them to take lots of risks. They can edgeguard us pretty well, and usually better than we can edgeguard them. And their ledge trapping can be scary, but I feel like our neutral advantage combined with our combos being a lot scarier elevates it to being in our favor. As a whole, it definitely feels like we can control the pace of the match for the most part. Aaron, speaking of which, ta-da! Same as last time. So, this matchup feels even if you don't know what to do in the matchup and you don't commit to it as Falcon. And what you have to do is camp. You gotta camp Zelda. Because once you get hits on her, her ability to force us to do absolutely anything is basically non-existent. Combine that with our massive speed advantage, and it can be annoying to catch up if we fall behind. Because being forced to approach her is not great, but we have enough speed to where we can definitely do it and make it work. We don't really edgeguard her, and she kind of struggles to edgeguard us too. It's definitely a matchup that's all about effectively ledge trapping and just picking your neutral openings very carefully. But in general, we almost always have initiative. So even though her punish game on us is pretty good, Her ledge trapping on us is pretty good, as is ours on hers. The fact that we're pretty much always able to choose when things happen means that Falcon pretty much always has control of the match. Or at least he effectively starts with it. You can lose it if you make bad decisions or they get good reads or whatever, but Falcon, for the most part, just gets to dictate the pace of the match. Even though both characters have pretty similar strengths on each other when they get their hits. PT? Sure. I think PT's here, personally. This matchup would be even, or maybe even very slight our favor, if it wasn't for this little guy right here. Squirtle causes problems for Falcon. Squirtle has significantly better frame data than us, is a size where a lot of our moves just miss him, just for existing. And then his combos on us are significantly better than our combos on him. So Squirtle can kind of just cause lots of problems. One thing that's really important is just trying to keep him out with like walls of back airs or going for Raptor Boost when you have reads on his other stuff. Because Raptor Boost is pretty good against Squirtle. The thing is, it's also just very risky. And even if we land Raptor Boost, we're still not going to usually do as much damage as Squirtle will do on us when he just gets something that's significantly less risky. Like, we can keep up, but we have to take a lot more risks. And he can also just generally combo us better than we can combo him. Ivysaur, to me, feels like an even matchup. Both characters have a lot of good space control tools. It's just ours are movement based and theirs are range and attack based. And then I think we have a slight advantage on Charizard. In a lot of ways, his grounded movement is better than ours and he has a pretty big range advantage. But because we're overall faster, have better aerial speed, and also just significantly better combos, it leads to Falcon having an advantage on the dinosaur. So as a whole, Squirtle would be like -1, Ivysaur would be like even, and then Charizard would be like +1. But because you're going to be fighting Squirtle most of the time, it's basically -1. No, these are not ordered tiers or anything, Hormiga. As far as I'm concerned, there's no particularly meaningful difference in the difficulty of any of these matchups. Every single one of these placings assumes you know the matchup. Every single one. Obviously, if you don't, it can effectively be worse, but I'm assuming both players are very strong and know exactly what they're doing. Where's Ike? I think Ike's +1. It's not that bad, but it mostly just feels like we're able to control the pace pretty effectively. He's a pretty linear character, so he has a hard time forcing us to do anything. And then a lot of our combos are just significantly larger than his. But he does have a range advantage. I think he ledge traps us extremely effectively, better than we ledge trap him. And he can edge guard us really well too. I mostly just feel like we have an advantage, like maybe a very slight advantage in neutral. And then our combos are just a lot bigger. Let's see, someone asked about Aegis? We can do that next. I don't think this matchup's too bad. Feels like a -1. It's mostly just Mithra that's annoying. Winning neutral against that character is extremely difficult. And then on top of that, we can't really combo her that effectively either because of Foresight, but she combos us extremely effectively. The main reason it's not worse is because, for the most part, we can kind of ignore Pyra in so many situations. Like, Pyra really struggles to force us to do anything. She's mostly just scary when at ledge because that's the one position where we can't really just get out of her way and avoid her. Because that's the one place we can't avoid her, she can kind of just get those early kills, but I think if it wasn't for Pyra existing at ledge, the matchup would be like even, personally. Because even though hitting Mithra is really annoying, and so is comboing her, she can't kill us for outside of like F smash reads. And then we can kill her fairly early and also edge guard her a lot better than she can edge guard us. Mewtwo? Sure. This is a fun one. I think this matchup's pretty even. For the most part, both characters have really good advantage states on each other. I think Mewtwo has better movement, usually. But we do have more speed. Like, he's able to accelerate better than Falcon can, but we're overall faster otherwise. Even though he has better aerial movement. He has a bit of a range advantage, but we also are able to combo him effectively. And then we also just are able to kill him extremely early off of good reads. It's all about figuring out how they're going to place their shadow balls and weaving around nairs. His fair is also really good against us, since it just can stop us from getting a little too crazy with some of our combos if we try and push our advantage state a little too far. It's a very conditioning and read-based matchup for both players. Whoever is better at reading the other on that day will win most of the time. I lean towards this matchup being even. I feel like for the most part, we can pretty effectively get around a lot of his stuff. He combos us harder than we combo him, but I think our advantage state on him is a lot better than his on us. For the most part, he kind of just gets big combos, and then he usually struggles to continue hitting us after that. Whereas we will do less damage when we hit him, but then we can kind of just keep him in that bad position, which makes up for it a lot. His movement is pretty booty for the most part, so when you combine that with our massive speed, we can just force lots of uncomfortable situations where Steve has to guess a lot. And if he guesses wrong, very bad things happen to him. We have really good ways of getting through blocks with a lot of our aerials. We can use Falcon Kick as a way of pressuring him and then also canceling off of his blocks. Raptor Boost can go through a lot of his approach options. We can actually edgeguard him decently with like ledge slip knee, going out there with back airs, or even just down airing his recovery with two framing. We can even deal with minecart too, just not usually point blank. We can like back air through it pretty reliably. And for the most part, our main way of dealing with a lot of his materials is not necessarily breaking them so much as it's just being near him and making him feel unsafe to mine. You just being close to him to where he can't feel like he can mine effectively without taking the risk of you just coming in and hitting him. You usually just kind of whittle away his resources by just being near him and just imposing your presence on him. That way he feels forced to burn stuff to try and get you away from him. And then you kind of just stay at that awkward mid-range and just force him to guess a lot. We can kind of just make him feel unsafe to mine in so many more situations than most characters can. But yeah, I think that about sums it up. I think Steve is even, personally. Thoughts on the Miis? Sure, we can go on that. Yeah, we juggle Steve really well, too. And he's like that juicy weight where we can force a lot of uncomfortable 50-50s. Like, we can do, like, up air to threatening, like, up air knee a lot better on him than most characters. And he's just the right size and weight to where he dies. So we can just force Steve to make really uncomfortable decisions in so many places. More than most characters can. And then when we get in, we're able to kill him more effectively than a lot of characters can. Yeah, the Miis are next. Wait, are the Miis even on this one? Oh, here they are. So Brawler, to me, feels even. I think he's got a big frame data and general speed advantage. But at the same time, we have a ranged one, and we kill him a lot earlier. Both characters can combo each other pretty effectively. And we can edgeguard him, but usually not that great. I think we mostly just focus on playing kind of a defensive, grounded game plan, and focus on just keeping him out, and then just ledge trapping when we get our hits. It feels evenish to me. Me Sword Fighter? I'm not sure about this one. We might slightly win, but I don't play it enough to be confident. As a whole, we have a pretty big speed advantage, and his disjoints are really not that great in neutral. It's mostly just a lot of his throw combos are really annoying for us, and his ledge trapping is really scary. Me Sword Fighter is also pretty able to cheese Falcon too with down air. So it feels like it might be even, but we might just combo him a lot better than he combos us, and then just utilize our speed advantage with that to have a slight edge, but I'm not sure. So, putting him here. For now. Someone asked about Lucas? Let's see. This one, to me, feels like it's here. The more that this character gets optimized, the harder he gets to hit. Feels like a lot of his combos and edge guarding are really difficult for us to deal with. And getting our hits can be pretty hard. But our advantage state on him is very oppressive. We have a pretty good speed advantage. And we can actually kind of edge guard him, but for the most part he combos us better than we can combo him. He edge guards us significantly better than we can edge guard him. I think our main things we have going for us are that sometimes we can get really early kills off of reads, especially like down air. And on top of that, our combos are like more likely to just outright kill. His combos tend to do a lot of damage, but he can't usually convert them into kills, whereas we can. To be honest, I'm not sure if we beat Robin anymore. I guess I'll bring up Robin now that you mentioned that. Robin to me might be even. It's something that Greg has been convincing me of the more we've been playing. And I know a lot of the other Robins think it's evenish too. It's either... It could be like +1 maybe, but I lean towards even at this point. I don't think we beat him. As a whole, he has really good space control tools against us. When you combine, his Levin Sword is really able to be annoying for us. His good combos combined with a lot of his space control tools and his ability to kind of force us to interact with him on his terms a lot of the time can make things annoying. But we have such a massive speed advantage that we can use our movement to make him feel forced to do things. So a lot of it is just who's more effectively able to force the other player to do things on their terms. Both characters can edge guard each other pretty effectively. I don't think we ledge trap him as well as he ledge traps us, but we're also able to like kill him a little bit more explosively, which I think makes up for it. How does Toon Link do? I think that matchups it. As a whole, it feels kind of like he has pretty good frame data. Toon Link's able to avoid a lot of our edge guards pretty effectively. He has decent combos on us, but for the most part, our combos on him are a good bit better. It's just getting those hits can be pretty hard because of his range advantage, his generally solid speed, and good projectiles. So a lot of this matchup is just about being patient and reading each other's patterns. And whoever does it better is usually going to win. Alright, so someone mentioned Bowser. I'm not sure about this one. It's either here or it's here, but I'm not really sure. Gotta think about this one. I feel like on paper it should be +1, but oh my god, is his ledge trapping oppressive. His defensive options are also just significantly better than ours. So if we don't get our reads, he's usually able to blow us up for it very effectively by just getting his hits that force us at ledge and then just keeping us there forever. And we don't really do that to him so much, but instead we kind of just get massive combos on him. Both characters can edge guard each other pretty effectively, although Bowser usually would just prefer to ledge trap. Smash Factor is an amazing time, Bochi. Mexico is lit. Everyone was super nice too. But yeah, like I feel like it should be, but I don't know. This one's kind of confusing to me. I should play it more. Let's see. I think saw someone mention Pit recently, so we'll put in Pit and Dark Pit. I think they're both the same spot. I don't think we have like a crazy advantage on him, but I think neutral's like evenish, but we just do a lot more damage when we hit him, and we're able to kill him earlier. Both characters can edge guard each other, but it's generally kind of difficult. Both characters have solid ledge trapping on each other. For the most part, it's just about how effectively you can move around a lot of his disjoints and just focus on making your pressure ambiguous. Then once you're able to get him off stage, you just focus on ledge trapping and trying to condition lower recoveries by chasing him with back airs. That way you can try and two-frame him with down air. It probably won't work very often, but when it works, and it's great. It's just hard to actually get it. Someone mentioned hero? Yes. I think it's +1. Like, it could be in this tier, but I lean towards +1. Yeah, I'll put him in +1. As a whole, I feel like we do better against him than Robin because Hero's not really reliably able to keep us out of his face. Like, Robin's up-close tools are just a lot... I feel like they kind of do similar things in the matchup to each other. Where a lot of it's about reading, like, their fast projectiles and other things. But I don't think, like, Hero and Robin are that similar as characters, but I think the way Falcon fights them is kind of similar. But I think that even though things in general are better for us as Falcon, you can occasionally just get something wild because Hero is Hero, you know? Alright, someone mentioned Pichu. Yeah. In a lot of ways, Pichu is like a more annoying to fight Pikachu in neutral, because we have an even harder time hitting Pichu than Pikachu. But we also kill him in less interactions. The matchup's similar-ish in a lot of ways. But I feel like we can kind of just kill Pichu earlier, but it's harder to even get those hits in the first place. Let's see. How about Wii Fit Trainer? I think Wii Fit Trainer is probably even. This matchup's kind of weird and neutral for both characters. It changes a lot based on whether or not they have deep breathing. If they didn't have deep breathing, I think we would have a slight edge. But deep breathing makes it to where their damage output on us becomes ridiculous. And they also... I think when they have deep breathing, they win neutral. But we might have a very, very minuscule edge in neutral the rest of the time. Both characters can edge guard each other pretty effectively, but both have tons of mix-ups. It's mostly about trying to read a lot of their projectile patterns and just trying to focus on stage control. I used to think that Boofus, but I know a lot of the top Wii Fits think it's even too. It's just super volatile. Isabelle? Sure. Where is she? I think we beat this character. Not too bad, but it's enough. If you're decent at just like walking and parrying the slingshots, it becomes really difficult for this character to do much to us in neutral. Her advantage state on us is really good, and she edgeguards us really well, but we do the same to her. I think the main thing that makes this matchup winning for us is that if you're decent at parrying slingshot, she has such a hard time forcing us to do anything. Meanwhile, we can kind of just force our way in, and she just has to take risks to stop us from doing that. Also, our combos are better able to convert into kills than hers can, so you're able to just force uncomfortable situations for her a lot more. Oh, I did forget me Gunner, actually, now that you mention it. This one is... I think we win? Yeah, I'd say we win. It's not too much, though. This is another one of those zoners that does very little damage and can be kind of annoying to get in on, but when we do get in, we just do so much more damage than they do. In a lot of ways, Mii Gunner is kind of like worse Samus. At least with Charge Shot, anyway. But her punish game is just a lot less scary. Yeah, you know, I'll just talk about the Villager matchup right now, actually. I think this one is also +1. I think in general, we're somewhat better. We have kind of a harder time edge guarding this character because of the gyro, or the gyroid or whatever. But at the same time, one thing that this character doesn't have that Isabelle does is the annoying down B and fishing rod, both of which are kind of annoying for us. But we still kind of win in neutral if you just walk up and parry a lot of their slingshots. Villager struggles to really make us do much of anything once that happens. The main differences are that Villager is able to capitalize off of hard reads a lot better than Isabelle can because of Cannonball and Axe. And Tree as well, but you probably shouldn't be getting hit by Tree, except maybe at the ledge sometimes. Villager's like on average, less good against us than Isabelle is, but he's also has much scarier reads, so it kind of balances out. Put them both in +1. Talk about Palu? Sure. Putting Palu in -1 seems about right. This is, winning neutral against this character can be pretty difficult because of how hard it is to approach her, but she's actually not that great at approaching us either. If you just focus on staying grounded, be patient, and focus on defense and whiff punishing, you can make it pretty annoying for her, but she's better at it than we are. And then she can edge guard us better than we can edge guard her, and ledge trap us better than we can ledge trap her. For the most part, it feels like she just has slight advantages across the board. Like, she's a little bit better in neutral, a little bit better in disadvantage, a little bit better maintaining advantage, a little bit better ledge trapping, and a little bit better edge guarding. But it's not so much that it's like undoable or anything. So putting her about there seems fine. Let's see, I think someone mentioned Kazuya. I'm not sure about this one, honestly. In general, Kazuya beats characters that that have to fight him up close. But I think Falcon might be an exception to that because of our big speed advantage and the fact that we're able to combo him so well. Bear in mind, it's not as effectively as he combos us, but we can kind of force a lot of situations with him because of our movement. But getting in can be a little bit difficult because of how much better his up-close hitboxes are than ours. And I think the main reason it might be even is because of our edge guarding, honestly. Kazuya has a really hard time killing us off stage, whereas we can definitely just edge guard him pretty brutally. And I think most Falcons should be chasing Kazuya pretty much every single time you knock him off stage. So because of our edge guarding advantage and the fact that even though we get brutalized up close and he also combos us quite a bit harder, the fact that we still have a pretty good advantage state on him and can get big punishes, even if they're not as big as his, combined with our speed advantage and edge guarding advantage, it might be even. But maybe he dominates up close enough to make it losing. So for the time being, I'll put him here. You can get around Kazuya's down air pretty consistently, Tracer. It's usually pretty telegraphed because of his slow jump squat and the fact that he doesn't have that many other options for edge guarding us. So if you're scared of down air, it's usually not too hard to get around because he has to commit to that, and it's obvious that he's not doing something else instead. Where's Ken? Sure. Ken to me, I think, is here. Ken is pretty fast and he dominates when he gets in our face. And he also has really difficult ledge trapping for us to deal with. For the most part, Ken doesn't have to take as many risks as we do, but we have similar rewards when we get a lot of our stuff. But there's just more situations where Ken doesn't have to take risks than we do. And I think it gives him an advantage in neutral. And it makes a lot of his stuff more reliable. But we do have a big offstage advantage. Although he's also a lot better at ledge trapping us than we are at ledge trapping him, so it kind of balances out. It definitely feels like Ken has a bit of an advantage, but you have tools to deal with everything he has. It's just a little bit easier and more reliable for him to get his stuff. And he's able to just control the pace of the game a bit better, I think. Well, not Ryu, Sek. I think Ryu's even. Mac or Sonic? Sure. Little Mac, I think I'd put here. I don't think we beat him too badly. If anything, he might have like a slight advantage in neutral, but our advantage state on him is so much better than his on us. We edgeguard him extremely well. And he can edgeguard us, but he has to get really hard reads with down smash. And we have so many timing mix-ups that it's extremely difficult for him to get that kind of specificity in his reads. So as a whole, even though he might have a very slight neutral advantage, we get so much more off of our hits, and then we edgeguarded him just extremely hard. It's not undoable for Mac by any means, but he definitely has to be really good at pushing his advantage state and get some reads along the way, usually. To anyone asking about characters I've already talked about, I'm not revisiting any of these characters because this... Do you know how many of these are? If I went back on every single time someone wanted me to explain something I've gone over, I would never progress because of how many matchups there are. Too many in this game. Just go back in the VOD or wait for the YouTube video. Sorry, dude. Alright, Sonic next. So Sonic feels like a -1. It's not so bad. As a whole, it's a matchup where what you really have to deal with is just the fact that neutral is pretty solidly in his favor. We can't really edgeguard him particularly well either, outside of hard reads. But he can edgeguard us decently well. For the most part, he has a slight offstage advantage and is then just able to win neutral better than we can. It's pretty hard for us to deal with Spin Dash, because while Raptor Boost can deal with it somewhat well, sometimes, if he times the invincibility on Spin Dash, he can just go through it anyway and just not care. We're not really able to effectively force him out of Spin Dash, other than just playing super patient and focusing on making him feel like he shouldn't release Spin Dash and catching it with back airs. For the most part, you just want to make him think you're not going to approach so that he won't pull the trigger when you get close with Spin Dash, and then use that as a way of getting an opening and then go back to being super campy again. Because if you're even slightly predictable with when you go for your openings, he will just invincible through it every single time, get big combos started, now you're off stage, and it's tough. He's not the easiest character for us to combo either, even when we do get our hits, because of his super fast air dodge and the fact that he's, you know, not the biggest character in light. At the very least though, if we avoid getting edge guarded, we can generally live longer than he will, and we get more off of our reads than he gets off of his. So it's not too bad. Someone mentioned Greninja? Okay, we'll talk about Greninja. I like this matchup a lot. I think it's pretty even. Greninja might have... I think Greninja has a slight advantage in neutral, because his frame data on a lot of his... especially on dash attack, is just insane for us to deal with. His size and better grounded movement combined with dash attack I think are the main reasons he wins neutral. Retreating forward air is also pretty annoying for us to deal with, but we generally get more off of our combos than he gets off of his, and we kill him way earlier. But he also edgeguards us better than we edgeguard him. So I think for the most part, none of them have like too big advantages on each other. Greninja has slight advantages in a few areas, and then Falcon has slight advantages in a few other areas. As long as we can avoid getting like down tilt, up smash, or edge guarded, we generally live a good bit longer than he does. So we can just abuse rage and get early kills. Sometimes. As a whole, it feels evenish to me. And yeah, Greninja does pancake. Alright, next up, let's talk about Lucario. Oh, or Bayo, since someone mentioned Bayo. Bayo, to me, feels... I think it's even? I know I was talking to Bloom Forever about it at a Double Down, and he thinks the matchup's Bayo's favor. But I also think that he just doesn't really play any good Falcons, so he's not used to Falcons doing good, and we were playing friendlies and it felt even against him. But to me, it feels like a matchup where you have to play super grounded. If you jump around a lot, you're just going to get ABK'd and it's a tough time. And she also combos us significantly harder than we combo her. Because one, we're just combo food, and two, she has bats within to just get out of stuff. But we don't necessarily need to combo her hard when we just live forever. She struggles to kill us. And because she struggles to kill us, sure, she'll do like 0 to 80 when she hits us once. But then we kind of just live forever past that. And while we don't really have any combos on her, we're just slow and steady. We get like 20 here, 20 there, maybe 30 occasionally. And then we'll just kill her a lot earlier. And so even though she does a lot more damage per hit, we win. We probably get kills in around the same amount of neutral interactions. We just have different tools for doing it. She has tons of mix-ups with like ABK, heel slide, a lot of her aerials and other stuff. We have our speed, back air, and raptor boost. So for the most part, both characters have a lot that they can do to counteract what the other does. And both characters win and get kills probably at around the same amount of neutral interactions on average. They just do it very differently. And there's a lot of depth in how both characters can approach pretty much anything. So it feels even to me. I'm trying to think of what characters... Because there's a fair amount of characters I've already talked about, but they just have like other alts in here. So there's less characters left than it feels. Low profiling squid? Sure. This one's definitely a -1. I don't think it's worse than that. If you know what you're doing, it can, you know, it's not too bad. But neutral is mostly just a struggle. The invincible back air, combined with her having better frame data, and also low profiling so much of our stuff both naturally and especially while dashing, makes getting our hits pretty hard. But we do kill significantly earlier than they do. And then, for the most part, we're able to just force raw kills in more positions. But the main thing is that Inkling wins neutral pretty solidly, I think. They also tend to do more damage when they combo us than when we combo them. And when they get grabs, they can convert them into kills with like up throw up air very reliably at like 100, like 20 and beyond, give or take, sometimes earlier. So for the most part, you kind of just have to use the fact that you have better speed and better just raw kills and just try and focus on just keeping them out, playing super patient and choosing your openings very particularly. And then when you think you have movement reads that you can turn into kills, go for them. Thank you, Yeet Monster, for the Twitch Prime, by the way. I really appreciate it. Let's see, should we talk about next? How about King Dedede? There we go. I'll talk about Diddy next. So, Dedede is just another heavy that we beat. I think we beat pretty much all of them except maybe Bowser, who might be evenish. But as a whole, he has a lot of ways of contesting a lot of what we do with his great range with Gordo and neutral B. But it definitely feels like we have control a little bit more than we might have, like a very slight advantage in neutral. And then we also just combo him way, way harder than he combos us. But he can edgeguard us pretty well. He has solid damage output on us. He has a lot of space control tools, and he ledge traps us and edgeguards us pretty well. And we don't do either of those as well as he does to us. But I think a slight advantage in neutral combined with a massive combo advantage, even though Dedede does pretty well everywhere else, leads to it balancing out to a +1. That's what it feels like to me. Alright, someone mentioned Diddy. There was a brief period in time where I felt like this matchup might be worse than this, but then I realized that I was just playing it bad. I think my problem in this matchup was that I was so used to playing player 1, I kept just playing the matchup as if I'm reading him when I'm playing other people. People who don't have the same habits. And I was just playing the matchup super wrong this whole time because I was too used to just reading someone. Yeah, I think I was just playing the matchup horribly outside of player 1 because of... So, I remembered how to play the matchup properly and I feel a lot better about it going forward. But it's still definitely Diddy's favor. He has a pretty massive neutral advantage. It's very hard to hit Diddy. It's certainly a lot harder for us to hit him than vice versa. He has pretty decent combos on us. And while he doesn't really edgeguard us particularly effectively, we can't really edgeguard him particularly effectively either. It's a matchup where we definitely have to just get hard reads. And just play super patient. Honestly, maybe with more optimizations it would be here, but I think I'm just gonna blame myself for some of those issues recently instead of that. We'll see. I've seen new ideas in the matchup, and if those don't work or show notable progress, then we'll put Diddy here. But I think this is fine. I also feel like those things only really show up at really high levels of play. The Diddy has to be good enough and optimized enough to force these situations where you basically can't do anything. But of course, once you're in them, you can't, and it just sucks. Pac-Man? Sure. I'm a big fan of this matchup. For the most part, he can box us really effectively. He has ways of keeping us out really effectively. And he has pretty good combos on us and can edgeguard us. But we have better combos on him. A massive speed advantage. Our raw kill and read options are significantly scarier than his. And we have tons of ways of getting around a lot of stuff he does. And we can actually edgeguard him somewhat decently too, if you're brave enough. It feels like it's a pretty balanced matchup across the board. For the most part, very little is just guaranteed for either of us. It's a very neutral heavy matchup where you just have to be really careful and just be patient. It's very easy for leads to snowball because both characters can keep each other out effectively, just in different ways. Alright. Done this. You know, I'm just gonna put all the characters that I've already done in the front. Duck Hunt? Sure. Duck Hunt to me feels like a slight in our favor matchup. Yet another trend of not great zoners that we slightly beat. I think Duck Hunt wins neutral against us, but he doesn't usually get much damage for doing so. Meanwhile, we get our hits, and he kind of explodes. Although, we're not able to combo him as effectively as most other zoners because of Can, but we're also able to edgeguard him a lot more effectively than we can most of the others. And he's much less able to force kills in awkward situations where we die than those other zoners. He's really hard. He has a really hard time killing us. Meanwhile, we have a very easy time killing him. And even if he has a slight advantage in neutral, our ability to kill him being so much better, combined with our combos being a lot better, and then us also being able to edgeguard him more effectively, leads it to being just a little in our favor. Even if it can be a lot more difficult to combo him because of a lot of his stuff being very tight with Can. You still can combo him effectively, you just have to be perfect. Shulk? Sure. Shulk here feels about here. Where he has obviously a massive range advantage. Comboing him can be pretty hard because of Shield Art. And you end up in lots of situations where he can edgeguard us a little bit better than we can edgeguard him. But I don't think we have a particularly difficult time anywhere. It feels like he just slightly outclasses us. He has a very slight neutral advantage. Slight advantage with maintaining his advantage state. He's able to edgeguard us just a little bit better than we can edgeguard him. But we still have decent tools to deal with everything he has. His tools are just a little bit better at dealing with us in general. Thank you, JQ, for the 53-month resub. And thank you, JQ. I appreciate it. I mean, there are plenty of these losing matchups are matchups I still have good records in because I'm very strong in them. But unfortunately, I'm not that good at every matchup. Work in progress. Alright, next up, I guess we'll talk about Lucario. So, this one's kind of weird. This one, I think I want to put here. So here's the thing about Lucario. I think this matchup is it's solidly winning for us up until he reaches a certain percent. And then it becomes bad. Like, if he lives to like 90 or 100, it turns into a bad matchup. Because his range and ability to kill us become extremely difficult for us to get around. Like, Aura Sphere getting massive combined with a lot of his range getting massive, I kind of lean towards it being +1 just because I think we beat him solidly up until that point, and we have plenty of ways to force those early kills. But it genuinely... like, honestly, if Lucario was like that all the time, it would be a -2 matchup. Like, that matchup sucks if he lives to 100. But we're pretty good at keeping that from happening. So I think overall, because we have a solid advantage up until that point, and we are decently able to prevent him from reaching that in the first place, I think I'll put him here. Yeah, landing your kill confirms on Lucario is extremely important. A lot of the time when I'm fighting this character, even if I have a free punish when he's at like 70, I'll often not even take it and instead go for a read that could kill him. Because a lot of the time it's better to just not even hit him if you're not going to go for kills at those percents. Because getting him to that threshold where you can't really combo him with a kill anymore, and you have to kill him with like raw back air, he's going to live like another 4 neutral interactions or maybe even more. And now he suddenly dominates neutral and kills you early, and it's borderline impossible to hit. So I feel like you kind of just have to not even bother hitting him up to a certain point. See, next up we have Plant, Ridley, and Bowser Jr. are left. Someone mentioned Plant, so we'll talk about that. I think this matchup's probably here. I don't think it's that bad for Plant. They have a range advantage, they can edgeguard us pretty well. They have they're kind of an annoying weight and size to combo. And then they also have Patui as a way of just punishing us for overextending on anything ever. But other than that, they have pretty solid punishes on us. They can edgeguard us pretty well. They're very good at punishing us for overextending and are surprisingly difficult to combo while also living a long time. But our combo advantage, their inability to force us to do anything, and things being relatively evenish, I don't think we lose to Plant in any department, but I think we have some advantages. So +1 seems reasonable. Bowser Jr.? We'll talk about Bowser Jr. next. I think this one's even. So, Bowser Jr. in a lot of ways, his neutral feels like Discount Sonic with a projectile. Great value Walmart brand Sonic. Where we can deal with Clown Car a lot easier than we can deal with Spin Dash variants. But one thing that makes it kind of annoying is that while he can't edgeguard us as effectively as Sonic can, his combos are a lot scarier. So, neutral is probably like even-ish. Although I think we combo him probably a little bit better. We probably combo each other about the same hard. Neutral's probably even-ish. I think the main thing that gives us an advantage is we're able to convert stuff into kills at higher percents a lot more effectively than he can. But even then, like, Bowser Jr. ledge traps us pretty well. Neutral feels pretty even. Both characters combo each other pretty hard. I feel like Bowser Jr. might have a slight edge off stage, but we're better able to convert into kills at higher percents, so it balances out. It feels pretty evenish. Last but not least, we got Ridley. I think Ridley belongs here, personally. Wow, another heavy we beat. Crazy. So as a whole, Ridley's pretty fast. He's got some pretty good punishes on us. can edgeguard us pretty effectively, and has a range advantage. But we have a speed advantage, and our combos hit way, way harder. Other than that, the main thing I can think of is when we get our neutral wins, we just do so much more. Although he is better able to like go for just raw reads in neutral. His raw reads in neutral are generally better than ours. But we both edgeguard each other pretty effectively, both combo each other at least a little bit well, although we do it better. I think we just do a little bit better across the board, which is Falcon against heavies in general. With maybe the one exception of Bowser, but we still might win. I'm just not really sure. I'm gonna be honest, dude. This meta is... it's getting harder for us. Damn it. All the more reason to have a secondary. That's why I'm working on that Kazuya. I can't think of any matchups that have gotten better, but I can think of multiple that are getting worse. Damn, it'd be that way. So anywhere between 27 to 32 losing matchups. And the thing is, I know some people are gonna be like, hey my god, your matchup's different from last time. But the thing is, like, let's say you go to the Pikachu Discord. I think most of the Pikachus are gonna be like, yeah, we beat Falcon. You could do that for, I'm confident, every single one of these characters. And I think the general consensus would be that they win. But people are still gonna think it's weird that I'm admitting it. I don't know, people just want me to gaslight myself, I guess. Either way, we have that for the losing matchups. For evens, we've got anywhere from 25 to 34 even matchups. And for winning matchups, 1, 2, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. I definitely recommend, if you're trying to be as successful as possible at top level, I think you should get a secondary. But the thing is, with Falcon, even though he has plenty of -1s, I want you guys to remember something important. Every single one of these -1s is very doable at top level. All of them. I wholeheartedly believe that. Obviously, it's an uphill battle, and you have to accept that. But I think that all of them are doable except this bastard right here. I don't think Gamewatch is doable at top level, realistically. Because Falcon, at the end of the day, is a character whose tools, like being fast and also having good combos and being able to kill early, is a combination to where if you get reads, if you're really good at reading your opponent, sometimes you can just overcome a lot of these problems, but they are uphill, you know? So making sure that you're good at reading people, if you're going to be solo Falcon, is super important. And I think that he's solo viable up until top level. And at that point, if you want to like consistently top 8 majors, you probably need a secondary. But either way, there are plenty of characters that complement Falcon well, so if you're a Falcon main and you don't have a secondary and you're trying to succeed at top level, plenty of characters to think about. But honestly, I don't think Falcon needs a secondary until top level. Like, if you're not top level, every problem you have can be solved by just getting better with Falcon. There is nothing holding you back until then. And the thing is, it's not like I'm being particularly pessimistic about Falcon, I think, because you have to remember that most top players who play better characters than Falcon, characters that I'm sure most people would agree are better than Falcon, are in a common agreement that they need secondaries too. So a bunch of top 10 players feel like they need secondaries for characters that are already better than Falcon, and of course Falcon does too. He's not some special exception to the rule. But I still think he's like decent as far as solo mains go, just because all of his matchups except this guy right here are doable. Just a lot of uphill battles. So it's hard for sure. Falcon's explosiveness does make him more solo viable than I think a lot of other characters who lose plenty of matchups. And Chic plays only Falcon. So every time he runs into Meister, he loses. Same as every other Falcon. All of the Falcons always lose to Meister. We play the -2 matchup and we never win. That's crazy.